where to start with, huh?
Can we talk about the center's butt sweat? Is this a real problem, Alex?
No.
Centers and butt sweat?
I hope not. I mean, I've heard of a few guys having problems with it, but it's never been brought to the media's attention, like so vague, like just so brought out of nowhere. Like, listen, how was today? It was great, but there was a lot of sweat going on. Let me tell you about it. Like, that's just a little too much for me.
Right? I mean, we didn't ask him about his center's sweat.
No.
We just asked him, hey, so, how's that transition going? It's a rookie center. You didn't work with him last year, obviously. And he just volunteers that information.
Throwing it out there. I mean, I'm just letting everybody know. But my biggest thing is he's a young guy. Don't put any more pressure on him than already is. Because now you guys go ask him about it, and he's like, oh, my God. Not only am I embarrassed, but now I got to worry about the ball security. And if this ball gets fumbled, it's definitely on me. It's too much.
Well, you know that if there are any errant snaps, that's going to be
everybody's going right back to that. Oh, you need to change his pants.
Well, but my thought right away was Garrett Bradbury better be good because then he can move on from this.
Yeah.
But if he struggles, he's going to be the butt sweat guy forever.
I mean, it's like the butt fumble all over. Remember that one with the Jets?
Yes.
I mean, you start talking about that. They played that out way too long, and this could be another problem.
So linemen don't in general have to find solutions for this is what you're telling me?
I've never had a problem with it. I've never had a center have a problem with it. I mean, I've heard of it, and I don't know how they fix these problems. I don't want to know. I mean, but I guess you're changing it at halftime.
That's great. Okay, Alex, we should just talk about you being here, by the way.
It's great being here.
I enjoyed covering you as a reporter in 2016 when you played for the Vikings. And I think people remember some of your more infamous quotes, like telling the fans to shut the bleep up so you could operate on offense. And the Packers will win the Super Bowl over your dead bleeping body.
I was right about that, by the way, though.
That's right.
Technically, I was right.
Nailed it.
I'm sorry. I saw it a mile away. What do you want me to say?
But now, people don't always catch the other stuff where, and I was saying before we went on here of like your ability to break down the game is as good as anyone that I've been around. And I'm really interested about just your post-career now because you and I are the same age, but you're like retired and that's weird, right? It's like, I'm just getting a break here in my young career. And you're like, how old is this guy?
I know.
And we're the same age, but how has that gone for you?
It's a transition. It goes from like full on pace to 100% to way down. But I mean, I have 4 kids. They keep me busy. I'm on a busy street with lots of kids. I'm trying to get into the broadcasting. It's just fun for me, talking football, talking ball. I remember sitting in rooms and I would be sitting around these guys like Randy Moss and they would sit there and they'd say, listen, man. And Randy, he talked like this. He said, man, listen, you got to take notes on everything. And I'd be like, everything? He'd be like, everything, man, everything. The more you know, the better you'll be.
That's not a bad Randy.
And it was, thank you. And it bothered him sometimes when I would do that around him. But and he was right because the more you knew, the better the offense would be and the more you could understand the offense. So I took notes on everything. So when it comes to breaking down plays, I was like, I totally understand why we're doing this. It totally makes sense to me. And I'd never understood why other guys would struggle because I always felt like it was just, am I paying attention? Am I not paying attention? Am I taking notes? Am I being lazy? So to break down film, talk football, it's always been so fun for me. And to be around the guys, come around you guys and we have to talk old games and stuff like that. We were just talking about the 1996 game you like to watch, I mean, that stuff is fun for me. So
people don't realize how smart Randy Moss was about football, do they?
Incredibly smart. I mean, it was so funny because I remember like these meetings, he'd be sitting there and they'd be like, Randy, what do you think about this? He'd be like, man, if my hand goes up, throw the ball. And I would just start dying laughing. I'd be like, Kev, you heard him. Just throwing the ball, dude. And he was great because another thing too is, G-Ro was so diabolical. He'd be like, hey, Randy, what if we wanted you to cut us like a cornerback randomly? He'd be like, all right, man, I'm in. He would name no rules. Like he'd be like, I'm in. I'll do it. Just tell me when.
I covered Greg Roman in Buffalo before I moved here.
Okay.
A very innovative offensive mind. He got a lot out of Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo. So
yeah.
He was always fun to cover. But as you kind of make this transition, was it tough though? Because I mean, you're probably playing football from the time you're a little kid and you've always got that in your life to now it's not, and you're sort of figuring yourself out.
Yeah. I mean, it was tough for me because I always felt like I was so young. Like even now I still feel like I could play. And, I just, one of those things that I love football so much. I gave it so much. At the minute you're done, you hear so many guys talk about it and they're like, man, listen, when it's over, it's going to be really weird because everything just slows down around you. And it's not, hey, we got to go here now. And we got to do this now. And there's no more time to wait. And, you're sitting around, you're like, all right, well, this is what waiting is like, I guess. And you're just kind of hanging out. But I found that, getting into broadcasting, talking football, it's fun. I coach my son's football team, take the kids to school, get to do stuff. It's weird though, because my kids are like, Dad, when do you go to work? I'm like, I don't really go anymore. I'm taking you to school. I'm making lunches.
You have extremely intricate play calls for your kids. You're
Oh,
like, where was the route adjustment?
listen,
right?
this 7-year-old flag football team I have is incredible. I mean, we run Ohio routes, we run China routes, we run shotgun. I lined up in shotgun last season, and this other coach from the other team looked at me like, dude, you can't be serious. I was like, listen, these kids are smart. And this is my philosophy with kids is they're so smart because I see my kids with the phones and the iPads, and I'm like, you know what? Everyone says kids don't understand. I'm going to try something. So I'm like, hey, listen, guys, this is how we run Ohio routes in the NFL and in college. Next thing I know, they know an Ohio route. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, let's run a China route. We start running China routes. And then all of a sudden we start putting stuff together, and these kids pick it up so fast. They're like, it totally makes sense, coach. And I'm like, God, I feel like a little genius out here almost. But the other coaches get mad because they're like, dude, you don't have to do it in shotgun. Like, that's just showing off. I'm like, I know, but I got to show these kids how to do it.
You're basically the flag football McVay.
Gotta be. I gotta be.
Kind of, more or less. Well, that's really cool that you're making this transition to broadcasting. My friend Chuck Whitlock said that he bumped into you in Los Angeles when you're out there doing some NFL Network stuff.
Yeah.
And you're doing XM Sirius stuff. And when Phil Mackey said, yeah, Alex is doing broadcasting things, I was not surprised at all.
I don't think a lot of people were.
It's just, it always seemed to me like there are certain guys who are totally comfortable with it and others who are like, no, get you guys away from me.
Absolutely. And I think you can see those guys instantly. They put on the political face and they give you the political answers. I've just never been a fan of that. I've always wanted to be honest and real. And yeah, it's gotten people to hate me, but at the end of the day, I never lied to anybody, so I can hang my head on that.
Which is hard to do in football.
It is. But
probably sometimes they wish you did.
I mean, there's a few times where I've had to sugarcoat it. You're like, well, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was because, but you're in honest, I mean, people see football. You can't really, it's so transparent. You can't really lie about it. And when you do, people come back with me and they're like, they're so political about it. Like, why can't you just give me an honest answer? So I was like, all right, I'll always give you an honest answer then.
And I think it's hard for players because there's usually, to me, two different versions of each player. The in front of the cameras for local television and the Vikings website.
Yeah.
And then the off to the side, all I have is a recorder and we're just doing a one-on-one story. I can see why players would, not know how to differentiate that,
right,
but also not want quotes about their butt sweat on the Vikings website or something, right? Like, I mean,
that's an extreme.
They know that the head coach is going to watch the Vikings entertainment stuff that they put up and see what every one of the players says. So you're not going to get anything out of them. So a lot of times when the TV cameras are over there, I'm on the other side of the room because I know that guy is not going to want that on tape.
Right. And I think a lot of it too is you take so many people's words out of context now that they're like, listen, I don't even want to say anything. Like if I say anything off of the beaten path, it's going to get pulled out of context and I'm going to look bad. And then all of a sudden you're in the coach's office like, listen, I swear to God, I didn't say it like that. That's not at all how it came out. Let me show you. And but by then they don't care because it's already hit the media and everyone's already talked about what you said. And I didn't really say it like that. So I think guys are just like, listen, I'm going to play the safe approach and just be smart.
Yeah, and we've been through that a few times before with, I remember a Latavius Murray ankle incident where it was something about, he said it wasn't 100% when he came back, but then he tried to circle back and say, no, that's not what I really said because he realized that he had revealed some information.
Right.
And it's, and usually though, all these little games are just because you guys only play once a week. Right. I mean, if this was baseball, we would get over these things in just about a second, but everything gets blown up in the NFL.
Well, it's because every game's so important. I mean, look at Andrew Luck right now. I mean, I know it's not a big deal right now, but eventually it's going to be if it continues to go down this path because like you said, every week is so important and every game is so important. It's not like baseball where it's like, hey, listen, we lost. It's okay. We'll get them tomorrow. You lose one now and it's like, well, we've got pushed back in the standings. I don't know what this is going to do later on. And then not only that, but you're revealing too much. I think guys get caught off guard, you know, and it's you ask them a simple question and they want to be honest, but at the same time, they're trying to beat around the bush and I'm trying to not give you enough, but I kind of gave you too much. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a delicate balance, especially because coaches are crazy. And and when there's so much pressure going on, it's a fascinating difference between training camp Mike Zimmer and midseason Mike Zimmer, because in training camp, reporters, a couple of us will go and have a side session with him at his golf cart. And he'll often be great and just like thoughtful with his answers. It doesn't seem annoyed or frustrated. But if we're talking two losses in a row
it's
at the podium or something, it's a very different. And I understand why that is. So you could see where the pressure gets to people, and then everything they end up being paranoid about.
Right. And then, when I was in San Francisco, they used to say, we're paranoid about being paranoid. And they were. Like, everything you would say, they'd be watching you in the back of the room. Like, a coach would stare at you like, okay, that was a good answer. No, that was not good. No, go back and clarify. Like, you're constantly like, God, I'm going to watch over my shoulder, and now we're losing, and I got to watch what I really say. And it's like this cat and mouse game, and you got to know how to navigate.
Yeah. And I've found it to be, to have more success asking players to break down how football works for me.
Yeah.
Because in general terms, that's usually never a problem, because everyone knows how this stuff goes and fans really like to read about it. But if you're asking, so, how you guys gonna run this play against New Orleans, or they want, bulletin board material, things like this. So it's a very sort of delicate thing that players have to deal with that I'm sympathetic to, but also annoyed by, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's just one of these things that, I think when you talk about the game, players will open up instantly, but it's when you start talking about other things, other players, other teams, that they automatically shut down. They're like, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole I want to go. Whereas I was like, I don't really care. I mean, I'm going to play this defense regardless whether they're pissed off or not. I mean, these guys are like, don't give them bulletin board material. You're in the NFL. If you need to get hyped up for a game, you should not be in the NFL. So I don't know anybody that's like, dude, I read that quote about me that you said. I'm coming for you this week. Like, all right, bro, I got you.
It seems like something that would happen in like the 60s or something. Like some guy was coming off of his first job heading to he said, what about me?
Yeah, seriously.
Now I'm really going to work out and try. Alex, for this first segment, I want to ask you a little bit more about your Vikings career.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about this offense and some real football things. But when you think of the year that you were here, like what comes to mind immediately for 2016 other than, boy, that went bad eventually?
Tragic. It was tragic. I mean, the year started off so wrong, and especially in my eyes, because when I got here, I was really excited to be here. And I was excited because it was another smash mouth coach like Jim Harbaugh that I had that I respected a lot, and a guy that had been through the ranks, a Bill Parcells guy, somebody that came from the top. And I got here and instantly it was just not what I thought it was going to be. And I say that with this. I got here, one of our star players got hurt the first day. And I was instantly like, you know what? This is not going well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to this player and I was like, man, maybe if you cared a little bit more, we wouldn't have this problem. Maybe if you'd have tried, and instantly like the excuses came out and I was like, you know what? Me and this dude, we're just not going to get along. And then Teddy gets hurt. And that is tragic.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a very serious situation that you're 6 inches away from. And you're like, dude, I don't know what to do for you. And I'm trying to help you and I'm trying to figure this out. And, people are frantically running around. And I've never seen people run so fast at a football practice.
Yeah.
I mean, trainers and coaches and executives are like, we need to move. So you deal with that on a practice that maybe we didn't need to have, but you deal with that. Then Adrian goes down. Then we lose Khalil again. And then all of a sudden, like it just spirals out of control. And then we're dealing with a shuffling of an offensive line of guys that are getting hurt constantly, and we're trying to replace them, and we're trying to get the continuity back. And that's such a dangerous thing to do because you start throwing in random people, and people are like, hey, how come you guys are not getting along? I just met this guy 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, Jake Long shows up out of nowhere.
And Jake was great. Tears his Achilles on the second to last play against Washington. No. I could not have pictured that in my wildest dreams. I remember standing there and I was setting and I was looking out and all of a sudden he just got real stiff and fell straight back. And I was like, oh my God, he had a heart attack.
He didn't even run for like 2 years after that or be able to even jog.
That's because he got hurt. So he tears his Achilles. He has surgery on it. He gets hurt again on like an airplane and has to have a surgery again. And I was talking to him before and he was like, man, I've had 16 major surgeries. And I was like, dude, why are you here?
Yeah, right.
What are you doing? What are you trying to prove?
Yeah.
You were a great left tackle. Like, you have nothing to prove to people like me. And he was like, man, I just love the game. And I can relate. Like, I understand why you want to be around the guys and you want to be competitive. You have a drive to want to go out and be better and just be a physical person. And so, I mean, that year was abysmal. And we tried and we fought like hell. And it was what it was,
What I think of is the number of games that were almost there.
Yeah.
Just that there was Detroit, there was Dallas, the game where Zimmer couldn't coach because of his eyeball, and Adam Thielen fumbles a punt. Like, of all people to make a mistake, it's the guy who almost never does, And then in Detroit, the late game interception by Bradford. I mean, I've come away from that season thinking a lot about Sam Bradford and kind of how close he was to completely changing the narrative on his career.
Right.
His career was a bust, guy who made a lot of money and
Right.
never won anything. He was a couple of games away, a couple of passes away from that actually being a good move to trade for him and a good season, and just everything kind of went wrong. Blair misses field goals that year. The plane goes off the tarmac.
Green Bay, we were stuck for like 5 hours. I mean, everything that could have went wrong that year went wrong. And I agree with you. I think that had Sam had a great year, that would have revived his whole career. And I think people forget we were 5-0 to start that year. At one point, we were in the locker room like, wait a minute, we're the best team in the NFL, and everyone's got a lot of criticism. Like, we're not understanding where it's coming from. And I think a lot of it had to do with people trying to manage the criticism and how it got infiltrated into the rooms. And there were some guys that just couldn't handle it, and that's the thing that people don't understand, is that some football players aren't prepared to handle the criticism that comes with this job. And at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, you're paid to handle criticism, whether you believe it, whether you don't believe it. However you decide to take it is your responsibility, but you have to take it. And there was guys that would like resist it and throw it and be like, no, I don't want to hear this. I can't do this right now. And it just spiraled so many people out of control.
Well, and today there's just going to be criticism no matter what you do. I mean, you could type into Twitter, I like ice cream, and then a bunch of people would say, well, that makes you fat. It's terrible for you. Like anything you do, you're going to get criticized for. I'm sure that there are people who say that, Tom Brady's washed now or something, and he's just won another Super Bowl.
They'd be very wrong.
And they would be, but
I mean, statistically, they're wrong.
Anything someone will criticize. It doesn't matter what it is. And
it's kind of sad though, isn't it? Like, I mean, everybody has to just kind of rain on the parade. And you see it when you're on the inside looking out and you're like, man, you could literally have done that perfectly and somebody will tell you did it wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Patrick Willis telling me that a great player once told him that he needed more from him. And this was after he had won like the defensive player of the year. He was like, can you believe this guy came up to me and was like, you can do more? He was like, bro, I literally cannot do any more. I did it all. I was the defensive player of the year. I was like, everyone's got criticism. And that's when I realized you need to learn how to navigate through it.
Yeah.
People are always going to tell you to push more. And that's to kind of fuel your drive, to give you that next, hey, listen, you can do more. You can be more. You're right. I could do more in the rooms or something. But some people are going to take that and they're going to go, man, this is a lot. You're putting a lot on me right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving you as much as I can right now, and you're throwing a lot at me. And sometimes it's taken the wrong way. So at the end of the day, though, that's your job, is to handle that criticism.
Yeah. And that year too, I mean, it was kind of evident that those issues were gonna
Norv
eventually
quit.
Yeah.
I mean, that was huge for us. Like one day Norv's here, one day Norv's not, and you're like, wait a minute. OCs just don't up and walk out.
Right.
What is going on right now? This place could not be any more explosive.
It was, and that was the crazy thing, is that he quit at 5-2.
Right.
Like it was a tough loss against Philly in a game that you could have probably won with a couple of more good throws or bounces. I think there's a tip ball that gets picked in the red zone or something by Bradford. And then you go to Chicago, you lay an egg. Not the first time the Vikings have ever done that in Chicago. It's like the house of horrors there.
That was Halloween, though. To our credit, that was Halloween.
It was Halloween. That's right. But I don't think anybody thought at that point, well, Vikings are done. But after Norv quit, then there was the feeling, okay, something is really wrong here. And plus, what was going on at the tackle position at that point is who's even playing tackle this week.
That was tough. I mean, we had Andre Smith to start the season and Matt Khalil. Both of them go down to injury. I mean, Andre tears his tricep. Matt tears his hip. We got TJ Clemmings in here. We got Searles in here. We got Jake Long in here. We were bringing in everybody that we could find.
Rashad Hill shows up at the end.
Rashad Hill came in and played well for us. But at the end of the day, we could never get the same 5 guys out for 2 weeks in a row. It was like everybody always, because we were up in Chicago. I got knocked out cold.
That's right.
And so all of a sudden I'm missing a game. And then all of a sudden I come back and Fusco's got to miss a game. And then Berger gets knocked out. I mean, it was just a really awkward year.
I think Willie Beavers played in an actual football game at that point. And he had been cut as a 4th-round pick and then brought back.
Well, at this point, I look back and I go, what could be worse, Willie Beavers or Eric Flowers? We might have got the better end of that.
Yeah, you probably did. At one point, well, I remember this being sort of a point of contention. At one point, you had said that you would play tackle because you played tackle in college.
I wanted to so bad. I went to Tony and I said, Tony, listen. And it was more for my own selfishness that I was like, you know what? I'm kind of sick of this rotation over here at left tackle. Why don't you just move me out and put somebody at guard? I know I can do it. I played Robert Quinn. I've played JPP and OC Umenyiora at left tackle. I've played them all. Like, just move me out. And he was like, no, I want to keep you where you are. And you're just doing fine. And you just stay put. And that was to the credit, that was my fault for doing that, because that was me being frustrated and kind of like, I can do more than I should. And
Sure.
that's my number one rule, is why a team will always struggle is when guys are like, I got to do more. I can do more. Instead of just doing your job, you're like, I need to help the problem. I need to fix it. Because when you're in it, you feel really good when you're looking at it. But then when you're in the game, you're like, man, this just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't gel with this guy, and I can't gel with this guy, because we're all just getting put together, and then we're rotating guys in the game. And that's when, you know, we would put Sarles at right tackle and move Jake to right tackle and TJ to left, and then Sarles to, and it was like, listen, we can't be playing musical chairs in a game. Like, this is for practice. And that was one of the things that, you know, we had to do.
As reporters, we couldn't keep up with who was playing where for
as
that
a player.
season.
I could not keep up with who was playing where. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. There was guys in the room. I was like, Coach, what is his name? Who is this guy? They're like, oh, we just got him. He's going to start this week. Okay, well, where we go?
So I'll tell you about just how I am with sports. We play like rec league basketball.
Okay.
And if I make a mistake, it will keep me up at night.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't mean anything, but it still does. I'm like that. Is the 2016 season like that to you, where it still keeps you up at night?
Absolutely. I mean, that was a year that I don't think I got any sleep, because it was constantly breaking down film, watching film, trying to figure out what was wrong. And for me, I knew what the problem was, but I wanted to resist against it. I wanted to be like, you know what? It can't be the continuity. It's got to be something else. I got to pick my game up. I need to try and get so-and-so to pick his game. You know, and a lot of it too was the young guys were getting thrown in there, and young guys don't know how to handle criticism from a pro coach, because a lot of times they're not going to give you the goods. They're always going to give you the bads, because we don't have time to sit here and stroke you, dude. I'm sorry, but we got time to sit here and cut into you. So they'd be cutting into these young players, and these guys wouldn't respond. They would sit there and they would just take it. And then after the meeting, they'd be like, dude, you know, these coaches are coming down so hard. And you'd be like, dude, look, this is a business.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared, you need to go out that door. But these guys are trying to make you better, whether you take it or not. We'll see next week if you're out there in the game, you know? And that's one of the things that coaches, they want to see, are you coachable? If I tell this guy to change, will he fix it? You know, that's why everybody always wonders about these preseason games. What's up with the preseason? It's to see what the young guys are going to do. We've coached you for 2 weeks now. Are you going to continue to do what we tell you to do? Or are you going to go to survival mode, which you did in college, which is wrong? So that's why this is all, which it is, because I've seen these college kids coming out, and I'm like, oh my God, this is rough. Like, these guys are like, so what's a huddle? I'm like, oh my God. I can't do this right now. I gotta go. I gotta go home.
Where's the man on the sideline with the giant picture?
I know,
of
the
SpongeBob
color, the
or whatever,
blue.
right? Yeah.
It's red. It's red. Oh, guys, it's red. You look at these guys are looking over at the sideline, and I always ask them, like, what are you guys looking at? They're like, the play. How do you get a play from the sideline with a color? Like, what does blue tell you? They're like, power right. I'm like, that's terrible. Terrible. You should be ashamed of yourself.
We're in studio here with Alex Boone. When we come back, we're going to talk about the present offensive line of the Minnesota Vikings, the zone scheme. You were a power scheme guy, and so you're going to break down what the zone scheme does to help offensive linemen, how it can work with the Vikings, just some football talk. And maybe before the end of the show, we should just talk about some favorite 90s players that you had and neck rolls.
Bro, neck rolls for sure.
Neck rolls.
That's a 90s move right there.
We are going to get into that as we continue. Alex Boone, former Viking, in studio here. You're listening to Purple Daily on Score North.